So far, we have covered altars, where we've already described how to construct your altar in your home. Symbols, we've talked about objects that carry both personal and archetypal meanings and putting them on your altar to symbolize different things. The four elements, we talked about how the four elements would go and the different things that you can use to represent them and where they'd go on your altar by using the four directions, which we've also covered north, south, east, and west, and the different things that you can put in each area to represent them, with the four elements also being earth, air, water, and fire. So I'm going to cover a little bit more now. We're going to go into offerings, and these are offerings that you may want to leave at your altars for those you are practicing veneration to. An offering is anything that you give up to spirit and the feast that often follows. In a group ceremony, food is first taken outside and offered to the spirit, and the food is left on the altars, which can be left for a gift to the gods or your ancestors. In some cultures, like Hawaii and India, they use flowers on their altar as offerings. During Catholic Lent, a person voluntarily abstains for some habit or addiction in their offering to God. Fasting means that you're surrendering your eating habits to spirit, usually as a means of developing your compassion and gratitude. There are many different types of offerings you can leave, and we'll be covering just these types in our course. They're going to be basic offerings, coffee or tea, bread, ancient beverages, flowers, hard liquor and tobacco, toiletries, incense, tools, and ex votos. Basic offerings. Basic offerings can be meals, your favorite dish, an ancestor's favorite dish, regional foods from when your ancestors may have come from, family recipes, traditional dishes, or seasonal foods. You don't need to provide full-size portions for your ancestors. The author for the one book that I used suggests not to, as the living requires more food than the dead. So instead, offering a small taste of your meal can create a meaningful connection symbolizing that you and your ancestors are seated at the same table, bonded by the magic of shared meals. If you have the time and the resources, you can also prepare full meals for them and leave a place setting at your table or on your altar. There's no set way to do it, but if you don't have the means to leave a full meal, small portions of what you have are fine. Meals are inherently magical, and cooking is a form of alchemy. It's transforming raw ingredients from the earth into something entirely new. Acts of service, such as cooking, are love language. The time and care you spend preparing a meal for your ancestors becomes a ritual of devotion, adding depth to the offering. If you're not good at cooking, you may want to consider learning to cook family recipes, dishes loved by recently deceased ancestors, or traditional meals from your ancestral homelands. The act of learning itself can be a ritual, so don't worry if your skills are still developing. You may also explore cooking with local seasonal ingredients to ground your connection with your ancestors and the local land spirit. Some nutritionists believe that the healthiest diets combine ancestral and seasonal foods. As new produce becomes available with each session, consider saying a prayer of gratitude when bringing it into your home. Gatherings, whether casual or formal, often draw ancestral spirits. If hosting an event, consider offering a small bite of each dish to your ancestors before serving it to your guests. This mirrors traditional etiquette where honored guests are served first. Alternatively, you can create your own customs. It's your home and your traditions. Like I said, there's no police. You can do what you want and whatever is comfortable for you and your ancestors. The key is to treat your ancestors as the most esteemed guests, even if the gesture is small and private. If you often eat out, go to restaurants and things, you can still set aside a small portion from your plate as an offering to your ancestors. So you can just kind of take a little bit of everything and put it to the side while you finish your meal. Or sometimes they'll bring those little plates. I know if I go someplace like Texas Roadhouse, they'll bring those little plates out with the biscuits. You can put a little bit of something on there, set it aside, and then just leave it for your ancestors while you're out. Coffee or tea. Coffee and tea are both stimulants. They can be offered to your ancestors to wake them up when you need them to get working, especially if you need them to intervene quickly. If there's a problem in your life that you would like to bring to their attention, you may wish to give them a cup of coffee or tea while making your petition. Help them to realize that it's time to get to work. It's a stimulant, so it helps them to maybe speed things up and get things done a little faster. You can do it daily, weekly, monthly, or just whenever you've got something that you need quickly, like as a special treat. And that's just another thing you can offer along with water. I keep water on my altars. I've got 3 altars with water and 2 without. And I've asked, and that's just how those 2 altars want to be. 2 of my altars I change out weekly, and 1 I change out daily. And that's, I do the kinesiology back and forth to ask, and that's what I get. So I try to go with what everybody's good with. Bread. In Western cultures, bread is closely tied to the concept of life. It has been a dietary staple, particularly for the middle and lower class, ever since its discovery. Although wheat flour and water alone can sustain a person temporarily, malnutrition would eventually set in without other foods. However, when flour and water are left to ferment naturally, something remarkable happens. The yeast within the flour causes the dough to rise. Once baked into bread, this transformation yields sustenance that can support human life indefinitely. This phenomenon played a pivotal role in the development of early human civilizations, enabling the reliable cultivation and storage of grain. Bread also holds cultural and ancestral significance. Its deep connection with human history is reflected in ancient rituals and traditions. As a modern food that generations of your ancestors likely knew well, it makes for a meaningful offering, especially when reaching out to older generations. I know there are some people who have gluten issues or they just don't do bread. You can probably use a gluten free and just put that up there. It doesn't have to be the same bread, it's the significance of it that is important, or the intention that counts. Ancient beverages. Alcohol is a complex substance. In small doses, it can foster truth, understanding, and love, but in larger quantities, it becomes harmful, even deadly, like any other poison. If someone you care about has been hurt by alcohol, you don't have to offer it to your ancestors. However, if you're comfortable with it, alcohol can be served as a powerful connection to ancient mysteries that have persisted through time and continue to evolve today. I don't offer it often to my ancestral altars. I do offer it to my spirit of house and spirit of place. I buy a 6 pack of Guinness and I split a bottle between house and place. That's the only beer that I like. So that's the one that I use. I'm not a big drinker, and that was the only one I found that I'm not a, I especially don't like beer, but that was the only one I found that I actually like the taste of. So that's the one I use. I can't drink a lot of things, the sugar in it or something in it messes with me. So it's not a, I don't want to. It's just my body has a reaction to it, so I don't drink it anymore. But the beer doesn't seem to bother me if I have a bottle now and then. But like I say, I'll buy a 6 pack. It lasts me about 6 weeks because I do um honor house and land every Friday. So for me, it's a meaningful gesture to honor my ancestors, the spirit of health and the spiritual essence of the land. You may consider offering wine to acknowledge ancestors who were initiated into sacred mysteries, whether they were devoted to Dionysus, Christ, or any other tradition, because most of the churches give wine. But that's acceptable to leave on your altar to any ancestors who may be of Christian faith or who may have come from where they worship Dionysus. A wine in particular can act as a symbolic bridge, uniting seemingly opposing spiritual practices like paganism and Christianity. That said, ancestral lines can be deeply connected to the alcoholic beverages they historically had access to. Depending on your heritage, this might mean beer, sake, or mead. Researching the history of brewing in the regions tied to your ancestors can provide valuable insights. Alternatively, you could choose a local brewed beverage or even one you've made yourself. While hard liquors are more modern innovations, they can still make excellent offerings. However, they may not carry the same depth or historical weight as ancient beverages like wine, beer, sake, or mead. And if, like it says in the beginning, if you have, maybe you have alcoholics in your family and it just doesn't jive, you don't have to offer it at all. It's not a something that you have to. You don't have to offer all of these things. You can pick what you want. Maybe you want to leave an offering of bread and coffee every day, or toast in the morning or something. You can pick what you want to leave for your ancestors. It's up to you and them how your practice goes. Those are just suggestions or ideas to throw at you for different things you may want to do or sell, how to do, just offering suggestions for your practice, but you don't have to do every single thing on here. You can pick and choose what works for you. Flowers are one of the most popular offerings to ancestors today, even among those who don't consciously engage in ancestral veneration. Their sweet aroma is believed to attract benevolent spirits. In a time and place where food offerings are less common, flowers remain a tradition, as evidenced by their presence in cemeteries and funerals. You may choose to offer your ancestors a flower they enjoyed during their lifetime. Alternatively, you could explore the language of flowers, which is a symbolic method of communication through floral arrangements that gained popularity during the Victorian era. And you can use this to convey a specific sentiment to your ancestors. If you're unsure, white flowers like roses or lilies make excellent all purpose offerings and can be a beautiful addition to an ancestral altar. You can pick a favorite flower they had in life. Sometimes I'll buy like one of those little $5 bouquets at the grocery store and I'll put a vase on my altar and put them in there. I've planted daffodils that the squirrels didn't all steal them and plant them in my neighbor's yard. But the ones I have, I'll take some off in the spring when they come up and put them on the altar. I've got azaleas and rhododendrons, and when they come up, I'll cut some stems of them off and put them on my altar. So there's all kinds of things you can use. I try to get some from land as they're seasonal, as they seasonally come up, or I'll buy certain ones at the store. I buy rose petals. You don't even have to buy the whole flower. You can go on Amazon or any other place that sells herbs and buy edible rose petals that you can put on your altar or use for spell work if you want to do things like that. There's a whole or lavender. That's a flower, so you can get the little lavenders or plant like a whole lavender plant leaf stem or just the little lavender parts that they use to do the scented part that they use. So there's all kinds of different things that you can use for flowers. Even marigolds are really another good item that you can use. Hard liquor and tobacco. Now these offerings can be polarizing. Some ancestors may welcome them while others might not. People who have experienced alcoholism in their family may choose to avoid offering alcohol altogether. Similarly, if someone in your lineage passed away from smoking related illness, you may decide not to offer tobacco. Ultimately, it's a personal choice to consider what feels right for both your ancestral line and your own emotional well being, as these two are often connected. If you wish to share liquor with your ancestors, you could offer specific drinks that they enjoyed in life, whether that's whiskey, rum, or another spirit. Alternatively, you may select a liquor that holds symbolic meaning for you, such as a smoky whiskey to honor a fiery ancestor, or a regional specialty that ties to your ancestral heritage. Herbal liquors such as absinthe, citrus liqueurs, or amaro, were originally brewed as medicines containing powerful magical herbs, can also serve as meaningful offerings for continued health. When it comes to tobacco, you could present it loose, on a plate, or rolled into a cigarette or cigar. Excuse me. If offering cigarettes or cigars, you might choose to light them and share a few puffs or leave them unlit. That's entirely up to you. I know my one grandfather smoked a pipe. Sometimes I'll get a cherry or vanilla incense, and I'll burn that because it has that same scent. So you can use other things to take the place of that if you want. Toiletries. Perfumes, soaps, makeups, and similar toiletries can be offered to ancestrals as a form of refreshment. Much like flowers, these items tend to attract good spirits due to their pleasing fragrances. Perfumes such as Florida Water, Hoyt's Cologne, and Colonial 1800 are especially popular in African American and Afro Caribbean spiritual practices. Nanga water in particular holds a strong association with ancestors. These items can be presented as offerings or used for personal cleansing, which I'll have a whole nother course for spiritual cleansing. I was going to add it to this one, but this one's already really long. So I'm just going to put that in its own, that whole own thing. Incense. In some traditions, incense is considered food for the spirits. Practitioners of traditional Chinese ancestor veneration often light incense at their altars daily. In other traditions, incense serves as a medium to attract and manifest spirits, including those of the dead. Commonly used varieties include frankincense, myrrh, and church incense, often blended together. Now, I have several altars with different practices involving incense and other offerings. On one altar, I have incense daily. For two others, I light them weekly on specific days and not the same day. Let me think the other one. And on the other one, I don't use incense. I use essential oils. I use candles daily. Everybody but one altar gets candles daily. That one altar gets candle weekly. Tools. You may wish to offer your ancestors tools or even small toy versions of tools as gifts. These items symbolize empowerment, providing your ancestors with extra strength to assist them in specific types of work. The shape of the tools reflect the nature of your request. Tools can be offered as general encouragement to individual ancestors or to your ancestral line as a whole. For example, you can use a compass if you're trying to find your way or get to a certain destination. You can use a fan to kind of cool things down. You've got magical tools or sewing tools or scales if you're looking for justice. Musical instruments is another one that you can use. Depends on what you're trying to do and what that tool symbolically means for you and your ancestors. The offerings we've discussed so far may be given daily, either to inspire your ancestors to grant a particular favor or as a special act of gratitude. In some cases, however, more formal traditions dictate the timing and nature of the offerings. One example is the practice of ex votos, which refers to special offerings promised at the time a petition is made. These offerings are only given if the petition is granted. The tradition of ex votos originates from the ancient world. The term itself comes from the Latin phrase ex voto, meaning from the vow made. Today, this practice is commonly found in Catholic and Greek, I can't talk today, Orthodox traditions. Offerings often take the form of paintings that depict the favor received or small sculptures crafted from metal or wax. These sculptures come in various shapes, including body parts, which might symbolize miraculous healing. They can also represent metaphorical favors. There are countless symbolic interpretations you can make. Don't hesitate to choose connections that feel personal and meaningful to you. Ex votos are about expressing the emotions that arise when a prayer is answered, making them highly individual and unique. There's no wrong way to craft your personal symbols. Another type of offering involves placing sacred objects on the altar. The altar serves as a spiritual focal point imbued with power, and when these objects are removed, they too carry that spiritual energy. For example, you can place a necklace or ring on the altar as an offering, blessing it to serve as a protective item when you wear it. I have a small bell on my altar with a llama or alpaca design from South America. I found it online. I purchased it from an online store. Bells like this can be rung as part of your rituals. You can also use them in a cleansing. Those and shamanic rattles or drums. You can use sound for cleansing as well. You can also place fresh flowers on your altar each morning, as we talked about earlier. Their energy is said to sustain the spirits that visit the altar, as spirits are believed to draw nourishment from the energy of such offerings. Similarly, food and water can be left to quench their thirst and provide energy, not in a physical sense, but by sharing their essence. Candles, incense, and essential oils are meaningful offerings as well. Fresh flowers may wilt as they draw the energy. You may see the flowers wilt a little faster than they normally would, and candles and incense provide light and fragrance, creating an inviting and sacred atmosphere for the spirits. Food offerings serve dual purposes. When placed on a ceremonial altar before a ritual, the food becomes blessed by the gods. Once the ceremony is complete, the food is often placed outdoors as an offering to the spirits. Some people ask about eating the food. I don't do it. I may feed it to my dogs depending on what it is, but most of the time I throw it out. Like I said, that's depending on how long the food has been left. Like I said, you may instead give it to your pets, as they are considered existing partially in this world and partially in the spiritual realm. However, I don't consume it, as you've had it left out, so the food's probably spoiled by then. So just throw it away. And now we will go into how to give offerings.